My hair is proper like that. What's that movie? The bowling movie where mate's like at the end where his hair's like.
Oh, oh, what? Kingpin? Is it
I'm
Kingpin?
getting a proper kingpin haircut going.
I like it though. My hair's going really long though.
It's starting to go back, and then I'm just going to lose it there, and then it's just going to be a hefty bit of hair like there.
The way I see it is just hats. I always wear hats.
I don't want to be one of those like 40-year-old men that are completely bald, and then they've got like they wear a cap, and they just like one of those red beanies.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake. Oh, and I can't grow a beard, so it's just going to look proper crap.
Oh God, I feel for you, man. Where my studio? This is my studio, by the way, and I'm actually set up right next to a music venue. So there's a garden just where I am. So there's people like milling about. The only way I can get internet in here is if I have the door open. So I'll imagine there's going to be a lot of people like looking in, looking at me talking to myself, and just kind of like, what's going on there? So yeah, that's basically what's going on here.
Quick question: did you strategically place a drill?
No, I just had I'll give you a little tour actually.
You use all of that?
I have a little workshop space here.
That is mental.
And then got the screen printing stuff over here. So because where I'm set up, the venue that I'm in, they give me a cheap rent. So I just help them out with like DIY stuff, like just building shelves and stuff. So I kind of set up a little sort of carpentry bit in here as well as my screen printing. So
how was the last show?
It was good, dude. Yeah, yeah, really fun. Got a lot of people down, which was cool. Yeah, just awesome. A couple guys filmed it as well, so we're gonna try and do something with the footage, and I want to try and do like a zine with all like loads of old photos and stuff from like loads of our shows, and have it with like a DVD or something. Yeah, it went really well though, you know. Yeah.
What sort of gravitated you towards music?
What really inspired me to really get into music as a passion was my older brother. He was really into like a lot of hip hop stuff, and that was the first kind of music I originally got into. That was like, you know, my pre-teens, and then when I became a teenager, I ended up listening to more stuff that my friends were listening to, so a lot more rock orientated and punk sort of stuff. So it was just because I personally thought my brother was so cool, and the fact that he was listening to this music, I was like, oh, that's awesome. So that's how I originally got into music passionately anyway.
First thing that gave you that feeling, like that sort of like stand-up hair on your arm sort of feeling?
Ooh, when I eventually got into sixth form, there was a kid in the year above me. He noticed that I liked post-hardcore music, and he made me a mix CD. He said, oh, you know, if you like this band, you'll probably be into these artists. And he put on like stuff that I still listen to this day. Daughters and Albatross, Minus a Bear, a lot of sort of noughties, post-hardcore, and like I remember listening to that CD just thinking these bands are so awesome. I need to find out more about them. That's probably one I can, you know, remember thinking, wow, this is awesome, you know.
Yeah, it's a really hard question, and I was trying to think of it myself and I couldn't really answer it. I was like, I think the first ever thing that really gave me that feeling, like the first ever thing, was when I was watching TGI Friday. Was it TGI Friday? Yeah.
Oh, what, with Chris?
Chris Evans.
Chris Evans, yeah.
And I remember I always used to watch it. It was always just on and stuff. But then like one night, for no apparent reason, Slipknot were on there, and that was the first ever UK appearance of Slipknot on
really
ever. And they just came on and they lost like 3 cameramen trying to film it, and yeah, it was just mental. And I just thought, like, what the hell? Like, I'd never ever heard anything remotely heavy, not even like, you know, like pop punk or anything. And then I just heard this and I was like, that's mental. That's just crazy, absolutely mental. And I had to look it up, and I remember you just couldn't get anything. I remember there was like the digipack, you know, like those digipack CDs with the paper folder.
I tell you what, it's interesting you bring that up, because first time I saw Slipknot or knew of them was in a issue of Kerrang, and this was when I first started getting into like rock music, and I saw a picture of them and it just blew me away. I was like, who the hell are these people like dressed up like these horrific characters? And then I watched Wait and Bleed music video on TV, and it just sold it for me. Basically, it just was the heaviest thing in the world. And it's something that I was talking to a friend about the other night. Was a lot of kids coming up in the generation now will never understand how frustrating it could have been for someone at our age to try and get into new music. Like something I brought up to them was the fact that if I saw a video, let's say on Kerrang, I couldn't just, if I didn't know who they were, I couldn't just go on the internet and look it up. I'd have to wait on that and watch that channel until that video came back up again. Because you couldn't go on the internet. You couldn't just go and find out who they were or watch the video again. You'd have to just wait there for the video to come up again. It was it was so frustrating at the time, obviously.
I think I was talking to Dean about it. Like Dean was talking about like how we found bands, like because we used to hang out a lot, but that was obviously when the internet was already around and stuff. But even then, like Nick and I and Dean, we used to sit on hxcmp3.com and just scrolling through the bands. And I never actually had the Sky or anything, and I remember being really frustrated because I used to go out and buy, like, from my little corner shop, I used to buy the Kerrang and stuff. And I remember when they started, before Kerrang TV, they used to put out a VHS like in the front of
I remember that.
And that was mental. Looking back, that is mental.
Can you imagine trying to explain that to a kid now, like to get into new music? Right, okay, you got to buy a magazine, and hopefully with the magazine you'll get a VHS. That's basically an old DVD. Then you've got to put that in, then watch that, then wait till that album comes out, then go to a record store, find it, and then buy it. Then you can listen to it. That whole system is like, that's so absurd to someone in this generation, you know?
Yeah, it's like when bands used to play shows and stuff in my hometown, like Bournemouth, when I was younger, the only way I could find out about it was through word of mouth or through flyers. And people used to go into town and flyer for a show.
Yeah.
And that's weird. It's just like you'd never ever see that. Like, what's the point? There's no point. Like,
no, exactly. That's the thing. The way I got into most bands at that point when I was a teenager was I'd read Kerrang or some other music publication, look at the reviews, read them, and if it said, you know, if it was like 5Ks or, you know, if it said similar artists include, that would be the only way I'd find out about them. Or if I went to a record store and I liked the album cover, that would literally be the only way I'd find out about new bands. It was interesting though, when I became older and social media became more prevalent, that's when it just completely blew up and I was exposed to all this different types of genres, and it really started making me salivate for all this type of new music out there. You know, it was all that Myspace era was where I got into loads of different bands that way, basically.
Yeah, I think that was Nick that introduced me to that thing, actually. Like I said, I didn't have Sky when I was living at my mum's, and in the weekends I go and stay with my dad. He didn't have like the full package or whatever. He had like the sports channels and stuff, but he didn't have like music. All I wanted to do is sit down and watch Kerrang, like all the new stuff. I always used to go to Nick's house and he showed me Soulseek, and that was the first thing that like really opened up for me. And it was a bit too much, to be honest, because like you could have anything you want and as much as you want, like in an instant. And going from having like a VHS in the front of a magazine to go into that, it's like it was really quick.
Yeah,
it was a bit like mind blowing, to be honest. And I remember going from like a few bands to going to like thousands.
Absolutely, yeah. I was exactly the same way. When torrenting became a big thing, that's how I got into a lot of screamo music, was the fact that a lot of people that I knew were telling me about these bands like Orchid and Datro and, you know, all those kind of bands. So I'd just scour the internet for hours and hours, just finding anything screamo and just downloading everything. And the thing about stuff like Kazaa and Limewire and stuff, it was so frustrating. Again, like this whole generation will never know how frustrating those torrent sites were, because you type in, oh, absolutely terrible. Another thing I was talking to a friend about the other night was finding videos, going back to Slipknot, of a video saying, Slipknot unmasked video footage, and like you download it and it's like 5 seconds of a blurry like whatever, and you spend hours downloading this 5-second video and it's just complete garbage.
That's perfect, because that's exactly what I've done. Like Slipknot unmasked, I don't know why everyone was going mental for that on Limewire, but like with Limewire though, you could only download one at a time. You couldn't download like a whole album.
Yeah, no.
And that was another thing, and they'd be all different volumes, and like you'd listen to it and be like all over.
Oh my god, it's so frustrating. I became more aware that it was more of a hindrance being on those sites. I mean, it did let me discover all these cool bands, and then when MySpace came about, that's when I think got me more interested in other bands, because you'd like go on your mate's band's site, for example, and then they'd link to another band, and you know,
the top 10 and stuff on the MySpace.
Yeah. There was another, I don't know if you ever went on this website. There was a website called Pure Volume.
I think it's still around. It's pretty good. I quite like that.
Yeah, and when I was a kid at school, I used to go on Pure Volume, and it used to have a shuffle link, randomly link you to a new band. And I remember I discovered a lot of cool music that way, where they just link you to this random band and it would just carry on that way. Being a kid and trying to find music was like obviously we would say that now, and people generations before us would say it was even more frustrating, but the amount of easy access to music these days is just like, if I knew about it when I was a kid, it would have just blew my mind. I was watching an interview with this guy, and he was saying that live music it's kind of gone down recently because of how open the music industry is. For example, if you wanted to go see a band and you're a kid like these days, you might not want to pay £15-20 to go see them live when you could just watch them on YouTube.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? It's funny now, because almost the mystique of live music now, I think, has dwindled slightly, because if I read about this, let's say Slipknot, for example, if I read about them and how crazy they were, I'd pay any amount of money to go see them live, because that would be my only way. That would be the closest I could get to see them, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, you could just go, well, I've seen them at this festival on YouTube. You know, it's almost like it's not even needed anymore, live music. So I think that's a big problem nowadays as well.
It's just the fact that social media has quite a big problem with live music and with bands. For example, like when I post something on my Facebook or Instagram or any of those things about my music, there will be lots and lots of people. For example, I post a tape and I say like, oh, new tape and t-shirt up, and I've spent all my time and effort in making this, and literally I'm going to make no money, and we've spent so much time doing it ourselves. And they're like commenting, saying like, yes, ordered, they're sharing it, and they're going nuts for it. It's on everything. It's shared about, but it doesn't mean anything, because at the end of the day, they're not actually buying it, and they're not actually coming to the shows. And there's such like a white noise and such a huge, like, it's almost like a crashing wave of social media. You can't sift through all of this stuff. The information is so much. Whereas like back in the day, I guess it would just be like that VHS, and you get it and that would be it. Yeah,
that would literally be it. And a lot of people that go to shows now, you know, I don't want to sound like critical of like anyone, but I feel like a lot of people that go to shows nowadays, regardless of what kind of scene it is just to say that they went to see that band. If you think about it, if they can just see it online anyway, I feel anyway that some people just going to the show just to say that they went to that show. It's like you were saying, like people are just seeing everything. I mean, it's ironic because we're talking through screens, but it's like people are kind of looking and watching live music through screens nowadays, you know, where it be recording it on their phones or watching it on YouTube and things of that nature. So it's kind of a scary thought if you think about it, like where live music's going to be in the next 5 or 10 years, you know.
All right, so I'm going to go on to the next question. We got
okay.
I wanted to talk to you about like the DIY scene, obviously, because most of us have been in that situation for about, I don't know, 10 years or something ridiculous. So maybe you could share like the most amazing experience you've had DIY and the most disgusting, wretched one.
Well, I think it's quite appropriate we're talking to you, because I think that Witch Cult tour was a big part of that, because there were things about the DIY culture that makes me embrace it on that tour, and then there were some others that made me feel like it was narcissistic and shallow, and you know, some people were in it for the wrong reasons. You see what I mean? Think about every band when they start are essentially a DIY band, because you kind of have to just figure it out when you're starting. You know, you have to go, right, how do I get shows? All right, well, if we don't know anyone who puts on shows, let's put our own shows on, you know, that kind of thing. One of the things that really disgusted me on that tour, and I think everyone on that tour would probably say the same thing. Unfortunately, you weren't with us at the time, but when we were in Greece, we were in some sort of squat. This band were playing, and they had like these, what are they called when you throw them and they pop like the, what are they called?
Like bangers or something. I don't know what they call.
Yeah,
like,
that's it. Yeah, me and Dean were behind the merch, and this band are throwing bangers, and there's a lot of loud music, and you know, all this stuff's going on, and yeah, me and Dean we could just feel this like cowering like below our feet. It turns out it was a dog that was just absolutely terrified, didn't know what was going on. And so me and Dean decided to get the dog out of the venue, and you know, it's absolutely terrified. It's shaking in our arms, and like this guy comes up to us, and he was like, you know, he was really, you know, out of his head, bit belligerent. He was like, oh, thanks for finding my dog, and you know, me and Dean just kind of went off on him for you know, being so cruel to have an animal in a live show situation. And I understand a lot of the people that were putting on the show who lived there and they owned animals, but it made me kind of realize that, you know, some people don't have opportunities to live in better situations, for example, and I'd never seen anything like that before, you know, like to see an animal in such pain and stuff like that. So but then on the other side, on the plus side, the community aspect of DIY is probably the thing that makes everyone appreciate it more. The fact that so many people that I know who are still like some of my best friends and have supported each other regardless of, you know, where they're from and stuff, is probably the reason why we still embrace it as a kind of scene, I guess.
Okay, so my next question is, what was your favorite tracks or favorite album from this year? Something that really just caught your attention and made you think, oh, this is what I want to be listening to like constantly, you know, like on repeat.
I tell you what, this is quite funny because you just had Dean on. Like, I've just really got into his new band, Swallow. You know, it was coming up on my feed a lot, and I didn't realise it was Dean's band. And I checked them out, and in the last couple of years, I've really been getting into the band Swans, and they give a really heavy Swans vibe, and I'm really into that sort of really slow moving, repetitive nature of bands like that, where it kind of builds up into a crescendo. You know, they've been a band that I've been listening to. I mean, this might sound biased, but a couple of Holy Roar releases this year have been like some of my favourites. The band's Foulbard from Bristol have been a particular favourite of mine. Their new album is really impressive. It's for me, I grew up as like really into post-hardcore music, and they have a real good blend of the kind of nostalgic post-hardcore I used to listen to when I was a teenager, with a very sort of crusty D.I.Y. and then very kind of atmospheric sort of vibe to it as well. They combine all these cool elements together in this record, and they just played with, well, the last time I saw them was with Celeste at the Underworld, and they just blew me away, absolutely blew me away. And they've been a band as well that I've really been getting into this year as well. So
there was a big situation politically with Tyler, the Creator, and he's obviously not allowed in the UK. And a lot of people that, for people that don't know this, he's basically been banned completely, not just musically, so not just artistically. He's completely banned from coming to the UK. But it's an extreme thing to do musically, and it has been done in the past. Obviously, like many people have been censored and banned, and and shut down shows and that.
The way that I see it is you need to separate the artist and the person. And I think it completely ridiculous, the fact that he's been banned from the UK for some of, I'm assuming, for his lyrical content.
Yeah, it was what the official statement was for the lyrics. Yeah.
Okay, so if that's the case, then there should be more people banned from the UK than just him, because if it's just,
I mean, like,
his lyrics alone.
It's Necro's playing in the UK like the same year that he was supposed to be playing, and
well, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Like I was saying, you need to separate the artist and the art. Like, take Burzum, for example. A lot of people like Burzum, they like his music. In my opinion, you can still appreciate an artist's work without supporting their sort of personal agendas. That's just how I see it anyway. Why has he been banned? It doesn't make sense. It's just completely hypocritical. I mean, they've done it before. I think they did it with Snoop Dogg at one point. He was banned, or he wasn't allowed in the country. And it's like, for what? Who honestly cares? Who's gonna be there at the airport picketing Tyler the Creator? Like, no one's gonna be there. No one's gonna care. I think it's so stupid.
It's good to get other people's opinions, and it's good for people to talk. And I think a lot of people are getting a bit like uppity about it and saying like, he should be banned because of his lyrics. And it's like, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Like, if you're gonna ban Tyler the Creator, then you have to obviously be thinking about the bigger picture with other artists, like you said.
I think exactly. And I think it kind of goes back to the whole Judas Priest thing, right, where they kind of looked into their lyrics and they said that, I think, what are people going to listen to his lyrics? Misogyny and the throwing out of like homophobic slurs and things like that. They're thinking that people are going to listen to this and do it, and again, that's a pretty ridiculous argument, because by that regard, you should ban pretty much anything. Before you go on, I have some records if you want any. I'm selling some records, but I can donate some to you. So I'm going to go through some that you may want. I'm just going to, because I know you have quite a big collection, but I'm going to have a look see what you may like. Do you know the band Mob Rules? Do you know them?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
I've got 2 of their records for you if you want them. I've got this one here.
Yeah, I haven't got that one, and I've heard this. I heard that's an amazing record, and I didn't get a chance to grab it, actually.
This, for people that don't know, Mob Rules are a power violence band from Leeds, I believe, and they are absolutely phenomenal. This record is really good. I'll have another one of theirs in here. This one as well. I got this actually on the Witch. It's just a self-titled. So if you want those 2, you can have them.
That's amazing. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, definitely.
That's all right. How about Graf Orlock? Do you like Graf Orlock?
I do like Graf Orlock. Yeah.
Do you have this record?
No. Their packaging is always so amazing, isn't it?
They have. They are one of the most underrated hardcore punk bands, I think, personally. Only because of their branding, their themes, and like you say, their packaging. Like this one, for example, is amazing because you have Ronald Reagan in there, but you can interchange it with like loads of other people, because there's a whole inlay in here of like loads of other dead people. I mean, look at it.
That's mental.
It's fucking insane. And for my favorite personally, I never got it, was the Doom box.
Yeah, I know. Alistair got one, didn't he? You can actually like build it into a full like 3D boombox.
You can build it into a boombox, and it's a record. It's just mental. And they had the face hugger as well. I don't know. It was a 7-inch, and it's a pop-up face hugger, from the film Alien. And also, I'd love to do an episode of the podcast with you as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Because so if we can, let's try and organise that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, for everyone that doesn't know the Holy Roar podcast, I'm going to link it below in the description.
Holy Roar podcast, that's the one I do fortnightly. We got a couple of guests coming up soon. Also, I run a screen printing business. This is it here. It's obviously the wrong way around, but it's esoteric screen printing, which is all this stuff back here. And check out Holy Roar Records. Check out the new releases they've got coming out. Yeah, that's it basically. Check out Witch Cult. They were sick.
With Loz. I heard that Loz is doing a reunion show just by himself.
Is it?
Yeah. He puts on the album and he just goes nuts to it. Like with maracas, like a Witch Cult Bez.
I saw him the other day actually. He was driving Rolo, I think. And we were chatting about Kurt had a phone that had a plethora of amazing videos on it, and there's one of you and Loz, and you just get him to keep screaming 180.
I don't know what was going on, but for some reason I employed Loz to work with me when I was a manager. But yeah, all right, yeah, here's a story for you. It was Christmas time. There was this little powder thing, glitter, that you can buy from an art store. I remember taking the cap off the top, and I gave one to my mate that was working with me, and I had one. And every time Loz turned around, we were pouring it in his hood and just pouring it on his back. And he was like puffing through the store, like it was just around him like this cloud. And I was, you know, when you're laughing so much, but you don't want to ruin the joke. And I was shivering, and my stomach muscles were just, I was dying. I was absolutely dying. Out of nowhere, he just put his hood up for no apparent reason. And it just rained on his face, just all this glitter. He fully justified, got really angry. He just looked at me and he went, "Oh, mate, like one of us, I can't remember who it was, just poured the whole, took the lid off and poured the whole thing over his head. And it just covered him in this glitter. And this stuff doesn't come off, you know what I mean? It's made to stay on the skin.
Yeah.
And
oh my God. He
didn't say anything. He just got up and just went out, just left. And he drove us around on the last tour. And I spoke to him about it, and he was like, "Do you realise I had to ride my bike home?" And he said it was just like glitter behind him, like some sort of Scrams wizard driving. Yeah, cheers for everyone that's watching these videos. It's really, really nice. It's been pretty decent so far. A lot of people have been like, whatever, going on YouTube and watching them and sharing them around and stuff. If you do have any recommendations for music and stuff we should be listening to, you can also comment below and hit the like button and share it and subscribe and stuff. And yeah, it really, really helps to get the word around, and especially with new bands and stuff. Obviously, like we've been saying, it helps to get the word around for new music. So definitely give it a share and get talking about stuff that's really, really important that no one ever gives a fuck about.
And please tell me about new music, because I'm terrible at finding new music. I'm just really old in my old ways and just listen to the same 4 bands over and over again. So send me some stuff. My Twitter handle is Mazz Gambardella, MAZZGAMBARDELLA. I know it's a long name, but that's just my name.
Definitely go on the Holy Roar podcast and everything that's been recommended. We'll see all of you next time. Nice one, mate. See you later.
Thanks, Kurt.
See you in a bit, yeah?
Bye.
Bye-bye.